Hello everyone, my name is Claudia Baila. I'm a PhD student in a research center located in Zaragoza, Spain, and I'm going to present you the next study entitled Effects of Condensed Tannins from Sainfoin in Ewes diet of milk production and suckling lambs growth. In Mediterranean regions, meat from suckling lambs is traditionally consumed. Ewes are usually stored around parturition and A-feed plus concentrate during lactation, whereas the suckling lambs are fed exclusively on maternal milk from birth to slaughter, with 35 to 45 days and 10 to 12 kilograms of body weight. However, in the last years, the introduction of fresh forage instead of concentrate has been promoted, encouraging the use of leguminous forage because of their productive and environmental beneficial effects. In addition, more and more consumers demand more natural and healthy products, in accordance with animal welfare and environmental standards. Sainfoin is a multi-annual forage legume that is widely used in Mediterranean areas. It's characterized to have a high nutritional value but presents a medium to high content of condensed tannins, varying between 10 to 90 grams per kilogram of dry matter. These condensed tannins can have interactions with some components of the diet, which can produce positive or negative effects. Negative effects are reduction of the palatability, voluntary intake, digestibility, and modifications of ruminal fermentation. Regarding to the positive effects are an anti-helminthic power, the reduction of the protein degradation in the rumen, reduction of methane production, antioxidative action, and an effect over the biohydrogenation. These alterations in ruminal biohydrogenation might cause changes in the fatty acid profile of animal products. In a previous study of the team, ewes and their lambs were distributed in 3 feeding treatments. In the first one, they stayed indoor, and the other 2 were grazing alfalfa or sainfoin during all the lactation period. Lambs from ewes grazing sainfoin during lactation saw no negative effect on its performance, and lamb's meat was healthier compared to meat of lambs fed indoor or grazing alfalfa. However, milk production and individual intake of ewes were not registered, so a trial was planned to solve this. But how to isolate the effect of condensed tannins? Polyethylene glycol, PEG, binds and chelates condensed tannins, inhibiting its power. So, the main objective of this trial was to study the effect of the condensed tannins of fresh sainfoin in ewes diet during lactation on intake and milk production of ewes and performances of ewes and their suckling lambs. To reach the objective, after lambing, 20 ewes or raza aragonesa and their male lambs were used during 4 weeks of lactation. Each pair was allocated to individual pens and they were divided into 2 feeding treatments. Both groups were fed with fresh sainfoin ad libitum, but the group called sainfoin plus PEG was drenched with a solution of 50 grams of polyethylene glycol in 100 milliliters of water before the offer of sainfoin. The other group received drenched water in the same way. Sainfoin was offered ad libitum twice a day with 200 grams of barley, and the nutritive value is represented in this table, with 11% of good protein and 45 grams per kilogram of condensed tannins. Lambs sucked their lambs ad libitum. Samples were collected and pooled weekly to determine the chemical composition and the contents of secondary compounds of feedstuffs. On the other side, also once a week, ewes were milked following the oxytocin technique, and the milk production was recorded. 2 samples of milk were kept, one for the analysis of chemical composition and the other to know the secondary compounds of milk, including polyphenols, urea, and the antioxidant activity measured as ABTS. Weekly, ewes and lambs were weighed, and the body condition score of ewes was registered. Now I'm going to show you the main results. In the following graphs, the sainfoin group is represented by the broken line, and the sainfoin plus PEG group with the solid line. The dry matter intake was not affected by treatment and increased as lactation advanced. Similarly, the intake of all nutrients increased in the same sense than the dry matter intake. However, at week 3 remained steady, probably due to a decrease of the sainfoin quality after a few days of heavy rains. So, contrary to many other studies focused on the effects of condensed tannins on intake, we found any deleterious effect on it. Regarding milk production and chemical composition of milk, here we can see the effects of condensed tannins on standard milk yield, polyphenols, and urea contents of milk. The standard milk yield was affected by the time and by the interaction between the treatment and the week of lactation. In week 4, ewes receiving PEG had higher standard milk yield, and both groups peaked at different weeks. Unexpected, condensed tannins decreased polyphenols in milk. Urea was also affected by the treatment, and condensed tannins decreased its concentration. This result confirms that PEG was effective neutralizing the condensed tannins, improving degradation of protein and probably its digestibility. We didn't find effect of the treatment in the contents of crude fat, crude protein, lactose, and antioxidant activity, measured as ABTS concentration on milk, and all of them were affected by time. Milk had an average of 6.5% of crude fat, 5.1% of crude protein, and 5.3% of lactose. The evolution of body weight and body condition score of ewes was only affected by the week of lactation. Both parameters saw a sharp decrease during the first week of lactation due to the postpartum. The body weight declined only in the first week, whereas the body condition score decreased during the whole period studied. In relation to the productive parameters of lambs, no effect was observed in birth weight, average daily gain, and slaughter age and weight of lambs, reaching all lambs the target weight at similar age, with 11.6 kg for sainfoin group and 11.1 kg for sainfoin plus PEG group, and 28 days of slaughter age for sainfoin group and 26 days for sainfoin plus PEG group. So, the following conclusions can be highlighted. The condensed tannins from sainfoin did not affect the intake and performances except a decrease in a standard milk yield at the end of lactation. Sainfoin will be fed to the lactating ewes without deleterious effect on the suckling lamb's performance. Thank you all for watching.